Hello, this is Rachel, and this is Spiritual Crypto. Today, I was once again inspired by Joe Rogan and the fact that he says shit all the time and doesn't seem to have the same blocks to speaking that I have come across a lot when trying to do this podcast. So, thank you, Joe Rogan. It was awesome to see you get completely destroyed on Twitter like a week ago. And I felt like it was a sign that Ascension Energies are getting rid of more dumb stuff that doesn't serve us. So yeah, I'm talking today. Clearly, I it's not just because of Joe Rogan. It's also I had this idea for a while that I wanted to share about, and I feel like I just had a personal experience that sort of like helped me to understand it better. This idea of the spiral course of progress, and I don't remember where I came across that term. I know I didn't make it up. It's like something I have seen in other places, but this sense of okay, so like like in school, at least where I went to school, we get taught about the solar system and like the planets rotating around one another, whatever that's called. I was talking to a friend about this earlier today. Shout out Selena if you're listening, and also could not think of the word for this at the time. I think we landed on rotation. So we're taught that the planets have these cycles, but we don't. What I wasn't taught is that as they're rotating around one another, they're also like the whole system, the solar system is like propelling through space at this like, terrifying speed. I saw a TikTok about this once that I thought was cool and interesting. And I like made a comment on it and took a picture of it if you ever feel like looking at TikTok and feel like looking at this post. But yeah, this idea of the spiral course of progress, I feel like aligns with the way the planets move through space, right? It's more natural, the sense of like, it's not only cycles, it's also this propulsion, right? And that makes me think about these concepts again of like masculine and feminine energy. And like every fucking story, most stories that that I feel that I come across now in whatever contemporary society, but it's been true for like since like Aeschylus. I feel like since the Greeks figured some stuff out relating to narrative, like there's like the hero's journey, and there's Joseph Campbell, and it's this you meet the person who's usually male, who's like the person we're supposed to identify with as we move through the story. This is, I think, particularly something that we see a lot in like narrative film now. And there's like the arc, and there's the trough, and then there's like the denouement. I'm having deja vu, like I talked about this before, but I don't think I have on this podcast. And yeah, like that's whatever, but it's very like projectile, like male orgasm-y. And I feel like like we see representations in biology, like biological females have cycles, whatever. So it's like this idea of like merging those two things so that there's cycles and also this propulsive motion through something, this sense of progress in that way. That's how the planets move through space, right? There's something about that sort of the way those energies work together that feels cool. And it's not present in the way that stories are told. And mostly, I feel, in films and TV shows or whatever that I've seen. So I've like gotten really interested in this idea of trying to understand a way to bring a story structure like the spiral course of progress into a screenplay I'm trying to write about clowns. It'll be funny. You heard it here first. If this film is out in like 2025 or something, I should say 2024, because that's supposed to be a good year for me astrologically. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to understand how to do that. And I feel like there have been some, like I was talking with my friend today about Russian Doll a little bit, because I felt like it kind of did something like Groundhog Day sort of is an example where there's just this sense of a cycle that is unchanging, and then somebody has to make some progress to get out of that trap. But there, like the cycle is presented as a trap, and it's interesting. And like, I remember like talking with a guy I dated in my early 20s about that question of like, how many days do you think Bill Murray was actually trapped in that loop in Groundhog Day? Like maybe 10,000 days, we'll say. He had to get really good at playing the piano, so that was some number of days. So yeah, it's like presented as that. And then in Russian Doll, it's kind of a different thing where I find it so moving too. Like at the end of that, in the final episode of the first season, which is all that's available as I'm making this recording. I told my friend this today too. It makes me cry, because it's just like they're friends and they don't recognize each other in those separate timelines, but they're still trying to help the friend. And something about that really resonated. I guess I feel like I'm trying to help people that don't know, they can't remember me or something a lot. But it's just so moving because they still do it and they still care and want to help and stuff. So yeah, it's like Russian Doll's kind of doing a different thing that is interesting. And I really like that show, and it makes me miss New York. And I feel like the people on it are so nice, and it shows like how the way, like the specific way that New Yorkers are nice, that is like unique. I'm thinking of moving, and I've been thinking more about New York again. Anyway, so I want to try and figure out how to do that in this like clown film that I want to write. And I just went on this trip. It's part of my excuse for not recording a podcast sooner. I took my mic with me, but I just didn't feel, I didn't have anything to say. And like the point of this podcast is also supposed to not, it's not supposed to be forced and like I have to do it X date or at X amount of time. I want to do it like when I feel more inspired. This is also me reassuring myself because I feel guilty about it. But anyway, on this trip, it was a road trip, and I went because I got this idea during a 20-day Vipassana I did last year to go to Sundance, like the Sundance Film Festival in January of this year, 2022. Excuse me. And so I like got tickets and went, and it was kind of interesting because the idea came in at the course, and then I like forgot about it. And then later when I was meditating, the idea came in again. So it really made me think that something was trying to tell me to go there. So I got tickets and whatever, and like rented a car because I don't own a car. And just before, not too long before I was supposed to leave, they canceled the in-person part. So I was like watching these films like on my laptop in this like cabin in Utah. And I think it told me to go for a couple of reasons. I think one was that I saw like one film there that I thought was good. And it wasn't even like an actual Sundance film. It had premiered at Cannes earlier in the year. It was The Worst Person in the World, which also just got nominated for a screenwriting Oscar. And I thought it was very good. But yeah, it wasn't Sundance. And I was just like, I think I got sent there to just see that, to make creating a narrative film myself feel more attainable, because so much of what I saw there I thought was just like bullshit and just like giving white guys too many chances kind of stuff. I'm thinking particularly of this film. I can't think of the filmmaker, but he's like 23 now and already made a film before that was at Sundance, and he got like Dakota Johnson to be in that film, and I like was able to watch it for like 8 minutes and had to stop watching it because it was so like twee and of what Sundance I think used to do like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And they can't keep doing that anymore. It's like super not interesting. Yeah, I was like, why is this? I don't know. And like their platform was just total shit. And I was like mad and tweeting at them and stuff. And they like did not care. So whatever, fuck that. But I think I was shown it just to be like, oh, this is also not that great. Like, I feel like I'm so perennially frustrated with man-made things. Earth is okay. Like Earth has natural beauty. I was reminded of that on this trip the road trip I just took. But like all the man-made stuff, I just feel like is so remedial. And so I'm like a drag to be around because I'm just constantly like mad about everything. Unless you think it's funny when people get mad, because I am mad about this really like all the time. And I think part of the reason I feel that way is because I don't feel like Earth just feels so weird to me. Like I just feel like I remember a place where stuff was better. And I think I'm supposed to try and like make some of this stuff better to the best of my ability while I'm here. That's like Rachel. So yeah, I think I was shown film stuff for that reason. And then while I was there, I was away from my house. I did travel some last year actually, but I was out because I was out of the energy of my house. And I think also I took my dog with me on this trip, and okay, this is where the spiral course of progress idea ties in with my personal experience. This is a mundane, boring example, but I felt like I was like, because I took my dog with me, that was one of the reasons that I like was living out this example of the spiral course of progress in this way that I felt then gave me some insight into how I could take, this is a boring example, but maybe because I've lived this, I'm now better equipped to come up with like a fun, interesting example of this that could be compelling to watch in a film about clowns from outer space. Oh man, people have already done that. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a movie. It was just a couple movies, wasn't it? Oh, I hadn't thought about that before. My movie would be very different from Killer Clowns in Outer Space, though. So, yeah, so the spiral course of progress part was that I was this compulsive consumer of travel for a long time. I've talked about that a little bit before. It was totally unhealthy, and it was like the same urge that made me like be a huge alcoholic. But it was also, I mean, I want to like have compassion for myself about it too, because I really understand that I just couldn't ground anywhere, and I still can't fully. I'm going through this again now, which is the spiral course of progress. It's a different layer though. Like I just did not know how to land on earth, and it was like I just wanted to continually move to stay a couple steps ahead of like unhealed pain and stuff. And then as really Vipassana did the most to help me with this, as more of that released, then I was like better able to find myself living in more supportive environments and situations with more supportive energy around me. But it's still kind of weird because so while I was at Sundance, I think the other reason I was told to go there is so that I would get out of the energy of my house with my dog, because I never traveled with my dog before. I feel like this is, it sounds like I'm spoiled or something, but he's like my family because I don't have I don't have a partner or kids, and I don't have like contact with my family of origin, my immediate family of origin. So like he's my family. Like when I think of home, excuse me, sorry, like it's him. So it's going to be really devastating when he dies. I find myself thinking about how destroyed I'm going to be when he dies, like frequently, and he's like totally healthy. Anyway, so he's my family. So in this case, the sense of home that I've formed so far in this life that feels healthy is just like me and my dog. And I brought that with me on this trip, and I'd never done that before. So that was like the spiral course of progressy part. Like I had that with me. And I think because I had that with me and I was away from my house, which is a rental, I was then able to more clearly see the energy of the house itself. And I had a weird interaction with the narcissistic, the landlords are like a gay couple and probably in their early 50s. And this is so interesting too, because you just fucking keep manifesting stuff until you heal it, right? Like, so my dad was a narcissist and my mom was an enabler. And I'm so confident that this couple is as well. And I sensed that to some degree before I moved into the house, but the house just seemed so much nicer than anything I could imagine before that, imagine myself having, that I overlooked it. And that's always a mistake. Like another lesson I really need to learn is just like always listening to that intuitive sense and just like not compromising on it at all, because it always becomes a bigger thing later on in my experience. Yeah, so I got more, I don't know if the dude's like a full-blown narcissist, but more narcissisty messages. And then it was just like being away from the energy and having my dog with me, the energy of the house and having my dog with me, so that I did have that sense of home with me. If I'd been returning to the dog in the house, the energies would have been more mingled, and I don't think I could have seen this as clearly. But because he was with me, it was like, oh fuck, like I don't want to go back to that house. Like I need to leave that house. Just this really clear sense of, like when I made the decision to move in, which was almost a year ago, I was more in those energies of attracting narcissists all the time. And I think I've healed it more since. And my dad died. And like that brought on more release of more of that patterning. So it's just like, oh wow, like I really don't align with this environment anymore and I need to get out of it. So like while I was in Utah, I suddenly started thinking about like, what if I bought a house in Detroit? I could probably buy a house in Detroit for like $30,000 or something. And then I started looking, and first I really like Detroit as a place. I think it's just a cool city. And like when I made a documentary years ago, we filmed in Detroit, and it's just cool. I don't know. I like it. And the people are cool. But I also don't entirely trust my impression, because the people I've met there are cool, like in the city. But I have like 2 happy memories from childhood, and they were associated with my mom's parents. And my mom grew up in Toledo, which is like, she was like just, I don't know, like 30 minutes from the Michigan-Ohio border. So, and they sort of look quite similar geographically. Like my friend is a rabbi in Detroit, and like I remember being at her synagogue and just looking out this strip of windows, and it's just so green. And it was this weird like analogy. It just really reminded me of where my mom grew up and the associations I had with that place. And my mom really liked her childhood, so the energy in that house, I think too, was just like people were happy there for a long time. So I wonder how much I'm just associating Detroit with like trying to reconnect to some, the only, I'm like laughing, but it's like sad. Like like trying to connect in some way that still feels safe because I'm separate. Cause I grew up in Ohio, that I'm still sort of like in conversation with the glimpses of happiness I felt that I had as a child, if I'm in that physical location or something. I don't know. I haven't like unpacked it yet, so I don't understand everything that's going on in there. But it does make me kind of question if I'm being drawn to that part of the world for, I guess that wouldn't be an unhealthy reason. It could just speak to like something that's unhealed that is trying to like express itself in a certain way. Anyway, so yeah, I was just thinking about like, all right, maybe I could buy a house in Detroit for not that much money and just buy it in cash or something. And so I was in Utah and I was thinking about it, and then I was just like, wait, I have this car rented. I don't want to keep watching Sundance movies on my laptop that I don't even think are good. I might as well just go to, like, I'm already a third of the way to Detroit. I might as well just keep driving. So we drove, my dog and I. My dog's name is Bowie, but I don't call him that almost ever. You know how you give your animal like a million different nicknames. So Bowie and I drove to Detroit. And we got there, and there was one house that I saw online that looked cool, and I checked it out, and I did think it was cool, but the people behind it seemed to be also narcissistic and kind of assholey and misogynistic, and I just was like, so not... I put up with it more than I wish I would have, actually. I want to get so good at like sniffing that out and setting boundaries around it that I really just look the other direction without even feeling anything like resistance at all. You know, that kind of thing where you just glide by it because it no longer affects you type of thing. I'm not there yet, but it's definitely getting better. Like a younger me might have kept pushing through that and then ended up in a fucking situation where I was having to deal with that energy in a much more substantial way. So yeah, so that house didn't work out for those reasons. And I looked at other stuff as well. And it was just like, I don't know, I saw some things that were kind of cool, but the one house that I would have liked the most was that one. And I didn't want to deal with that energy. And then while I was there, I thought like, it was cold too. And I'm spoiled now because I live in a warm climate. And that kind of made me want to get out of there, I think, sooner. So I decided to go south, and I went to New Orleans and stayed in a bed and breakfast there. And I'd never been to the Deep South before, and I was in Alabama and Mississippi as well as Louisiana. And then I had this thing of just like kind of like despair, because it was just like, I think I've been to almost every US state now, and I traveled, a lot for a long time, and I still like traveling. There's still obviously lots of places in the world I haven't seen. Maybe that's not super like, there are many places I haven't seen. I don't want to like overstate how well traveled I am, but I was just feeling a sense of like, where do you go in the world? Like, I can travel and see different things, different places, have different people, like there's different infrastructure, different languages are spoken in different places, but it's just like, it's all earth. It's all earth, and like earth feels pretty much the same to me everywhere. Except, New York feels energetically the best to me of anywhere I've been. So, because it's like the freest. I just feel like free to express myself there, and it's better at feminine energy, I think. It's just like, I miss New York a lot. And yeah, I think as long as I'm alive long enough, I'll end up back there in some form. But yeah, so I was kind of having this like existential breakdown. And the spiral course of progress part, though, was that I was going through that same sort of movements and like, having trouble figuring out where to settle down and what to do. But I was doing it with my puppy with me. And that was really nice and made a huge difference, just having like a companion, I realized. And I have more money. Like when I was traveling like that for so long, I was often broke and just figuring out how to quote unquote broke in like a first world sense. Whoa. Sorry, I dropped the mic on my belly. But in the sense that, I I got eviction notices and stuff. So like that part of it. But then also like I never slept on the street, but I was for many years in a situation where I was often figuring out how to, scrape together enough money to make it through the next couple of days type of situation. So like, like continually in this scarcity frame of mind, then I just couldn't get ahead for any substantial amount of time. Like if I did get a little bit ahead for a while, then it would like go away eventually. And it was because of Sankara stuff I had to clear through Vipassana, and I feel like I've really cleared it, and that was a big deal because it was a challenge for many years. So yeah, it was like, again, I feel like this is a boring example, but at least I lived it. So I know what it was like, this sense of like, oh, okay, I'm revisiting this energy that I was in for a long time, but it's at a higher level because I have a companion that I love with me, who is my dog. And I have more resources available to provide me with like enough comfort and stuff as I'm going through this, and enough to like, I don't have to worry about, I can long-term plan. I have enough resourcing available to plan long-term. So yeah, I want to kind of, like I said, hopefully I can, because I lived through that, I feel like maybe I'm going to be likelier to think of fun examples that I could somehow bring into a screenplay, maybe with multiple I'm starting to get kind of inspired thinking about it now. I'm totally going to cast semi-famous actor Max Minghella in this script. And again, y'all heard it here first. Maybe people will listen to this in the future after I win an Oscar. All the Oscars, too, they're such bullshit. Like, Rebecca Hall didn't get nominated for anything. Like, she should have gotten nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. And it's just, why, like, there need to be term limits for everything that is of that influence, that level of influence. Like, I mean, a lot of people say the Oscars are bullshit and stuff, but like, if 63-year-old white men are making these decisions that influence everybody's experience of this place to this extent, like, we're never gonna, like, we need term limits. If they're just term limits, it would solve so much of this stuff, I think. This mic is sitting on these books that are like not big enough for it. I'm reaching like a new level of lo-fi with this podcast. I'm sorry, that was probably jarring and annoying to hear when it fell. I'll hold it. So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what that could be. I mean, maybe it could be like a Russian doll sort of thing where we see these different characters. Like in my film, there's going to be the clown character who is an alien who comes from a place where this denigration of feminine energy, like I made up this word misofem to define, we have the word misogyny, but I thought we needed a word to define denigration and hostility toward feminine energy in all its forms, in people of all genders, and in like just in the ether. So this clown comes to Earth and isn't from a place where that happens, and she has purple lights in her belly, and as she like moves through what this place is and experiences these different versions of misofem, the lights dim, the purple lights dim, and eventually they nearly go out. And there's a male character played by semi-famous actor Max Minghella, and maybe a third character who's probably femme, I think. And we can kind of see what they're doing. And I don't know, I just wanted to try and find a way without like proselytizing to kind of show the different facets of my understanding of what misofem is and how it can show itself. Because I think it's really insidious, and I don't see any other conversation about this. And I'm getting more and more concerned because I see more and more femme people who are like activists, like really working for, I know the term social justice is like, I don't know, like questioned more, I feel like, than it used to be or something. But I feel like I see more femme people who are like committed to activism, for whom the concept of also standing fully in femme energy and feminine energy is completely like not on their radar, not something they're aware of. And I was thinking about it too. I mean, like with everything that happened after the murder of George Floyd, it's like in the past with like first wave and second wave feminism, as it was called then, you know, like it immediately followed, or soon as I understand it, those movements happened soon after like civil rights movements had happened. So it would seem like if we're thinking about these like historical cycles, that something relating to preserving the femme should be coming up around this time too. But it's like, I feel like it can't happen, and it has to happen in a genuinely feminine way. And the way fighting for rights and fighting for equality is designed is like super fucking masculine. It's like so masculine. So I feel like that's part of the juncture we're at right now. And I feel like that's why it's not really showing itself. I mean, we had Me Too in 2017. So that was obviously prior to George Floyd's murder. But I mean, so many Black people were murdered before that. And that, you know, there's so much systemic racism, but that many murders was not enough of a catalyst before George Floyd's murder. So it's just, now it's terrible. There's a lot there that is obviously deeply tragic. So I don't know. I just wanted to share those thoughts too, I guess. And, yeah, I want to try and show this through this film, and I want it to be clown as I went to clown school. I mean, I don't want it to be clown because I went to clown school. I went to clown school because I really like comedy, and like went to Second City after I graduated college because I like wanted to learn how to write comedy and do improv. And I knew that like Tina Fey and a bunch of other people had gone there. I felt like I needed some sort of structure that would be helpful. But then I realized improv wasn't what I was looking for because of the lack of the feminine, really. And then stand-up is like sort of the polar opposite of improv, but it's still within this like two mask paradigm. But stand-up can be, I mean, I like comedy. I like watching different types of comedy and thinking about them and whatever. And I like laughing. Although I feel like I've been really heavy when I've been doing all this healing work over the last bunch of years, which is like the Enneagram Type 7 thing though, I guess, where I like worry that if I'm not fun anymore, then like everybody's going to abandon me or something. But that's like mostly released. Anyway, so it was just like with clown, it was like I knew that the comedy thing I was seeking, like I wasn't finding it. And then just recently I was asking the universe or whatever, I was like, why did you tell me, like, why did I come to LA? Because I really had this strong intuitive sense to come to LA, even though I thought I hated it. And so I listened to it, and I've been trying to understand why it told me to come here. And now it really does feel like I should go, at least for now. It doesn't mean I'll never come back, and like ground in like a house in the woods where I can like write this clown film in nature that is maybe in rural Michigan or something. And and like when I asked why I came here, one of the messages that I got quite clearly was that I needed to discover clown, because I saw that here. Like I moved here, and then my friend Justin introduced me to his friend Cam, who like had done clown classes, and he took me to this clown theater. And that's where I saw the first really good clown performance that I'd ever seen. And it just made me laugh hysterically and also just cry. And I knew instantly, in the way that like, you know, thing that people say about their soulmates and stuff. It was just like, oh, this is the thing that I've been looking for in comedy for whatever, 14 years or whatever it would have been, 13 years or something. So, yeah, I think I came to LA to discover clown, and I have seen it now, and I've seen good clown, and I don't feel like I can do it yet. I'm still too much of a drag. But I can start trying. I feel like the energies are already changing. I drank a lot of coffee today, so I think that's part of why I just feel like I have a lot of energy. But it feels like the energies are shifting. Like even I made a TikTok earlier today, and it felt like TikTok was starting to get fun again. Like it hasn't felt fun in like 2 years kind of. But it felt different. So, and I know astrologically things are supposed to be like ramping up a lot like now all the planets are direct, and then I know we're still in the shadow period until I think March 2nd, Venus retrograde shadow, but things are supposed to kick off after that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna move. I don't think I said this already. I eventually then realized that it seemed like, oh, maybe I could just buy land and build a house and really kind of make it of my own energy and my own aesthetic, and really make a cozy place that feels like I can fucking have a real place to retreat to on earth. But then there's a lesson in there about not being too attached to that someday I'll learn. But yeah, and I found this adorable like storybook cottage, like 1,200 foot cottage. I found the plans online, and I've been looking for land in Michigan that's like green and near water. So I really want to be able to like step outside and go for a jog. That would be awesome. And I can't really do that here. I kind of can, but not like you can when you're just like more in the middle of nowhere and it's green. Yeah, like I think I'm going to do that, but it's like I have to let my landlords know. I'd have to give them 30 days notice, like by the end of next week, if I'm going to do it when the lease is up. And I think I do need to get the fuck out of here. And it just seems fast, like, but not, I think truthfully it's that I'm trying to avoid the landlord's energy. Like I don't want to have to I want to get out of here without having to deal with like the narcissist landlord, showing up, because he'd be the one that'd be all over like showing the house to new tenants, and I'd have to interact with him, and I don't want to. So I think I'm trying to get out of here before I'd have to deal with him, so that I could say like, yo, here's 30 days notice, but I'm mostly out the door, kind of thing. I don't know. So I have to figure that out, and I don't want to go back I don't want to revert and like spiral down the wrong direction or something, because I don't want to leave here and not have a home. I on the trip, I was reminded of how not good that energy also feels when I was just like perpetually moving in that way, and how much energy it takes to when you're just thinking about, picking up and moving in a couple of days kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. And then I also feel this weird thing of sort of fear almost about leaving a major city. I felt a similar thing when I left New York. I didn't feel it in Chicago though. In Chicago, I was like really ready to go, and I felt like I needed to move to New York. So it was like a totally different thing. But I really felt it when I left New York, and it was almost like an identity thing, like ego construct, where I'd like this idea of myself as a New Yorker and had made it a part of my identity. And like, that's always dangerous, because identity's made up. Like all identities are constructs, and they change, and whatever, like anything that's made up can. And yeah, so I feel like that was kind of an ego death when I left New York, which was healthy. Here it's not like that. I don't feel like a fucking like pride about living in Los Angeles exactly, and not in the way that I did about New York, but I do feel kind of like, at least here, even if I'm a hermit, I'm like in a place where like there's potential to meet people. If I'm in the woods, that's not going to be there in the same way. So I feel a little worried about that or something. And then also some ego thing, I guess, about, because this house is like nice, but really it's the courtyard that's really pretty, that like, and the thing about it is when you enter, there's like double doors and an archway outside. Some of y'all have seen my house and been over here. When you enter, you're like in the courtyard, and there's a pool with like dual fountains. And that's really where I think gives you this impression of like, wow, this place is nice. But then it's like concrete out there. Like there isn't grass in the courtyard. And the house itself is kind of cool. It's like almost 100 years old. But really what's cool about it is like there's like a roof deck that overlooks the courtyard. So really it's the courtyard that's cool, and you could like recreate a courtyard. Like what I'm trying to say is that what I'm talking through is that I believe there are better things in store for me in this lifetime than like, this is the end of this line. The furthest I could get in the energy that I was in, coming from where I came from, was like lining up with the house that Amber Heard moved into after her acrimonious divorce from Johnny Depp. That like, and then she like dated Elon Musk, and he definitely was in this house. Neighbors told me that he was. I said that before. So, and I've said that they probably fucked in this house. Of course they did. So it's like, okay, like that, but it's just like, that's the best I can do in this strand of energy, I think, is like ending up in a house like that. But that's not like, who cares? Like, it's kind of interesting. I think the energies of that are interesting. And the fact that I aligned with it I didn't know any of that when I chose to move into this house at all. They told me on move-in day. And they only told me because her business manager was orchestrating the move and he was like a huge asshole to everybody. And which was weird because I feel like our business managers probably supposed to be like, have decent like people skills and stuff. So, but yeah, this is like the pinnacle, I feel like, of what I can get to in this energy. It feels like, and this feels like Saturn Uranus square type stuff too, especially since Uranus is in Taurus. So like grounding, I guess, like, it feels like I need to go to a place that's more connected with nature because it's here. It feels too much like concrete. Then I'll be able to be more creative. And if I can ground and it's like a place that's mine, and also just not paying rent because paying rent is so fucking weird and needs to be abolished. Then I feel like that'll be the stronger foundation that'll help me get my health into a better place too. I feel like I can't get my like eating and exercise, whatever, set up in a healthy way in the energy that I'm in right now. I could do that more easily, I think, in a place like that. And then I think I could come out and like get an apartment in New York or whatever and just kind of like move back into a more like metropolitan type of existence, but also having this like cottage in the woods that I can retreat to. It's something about that just feels like it'll be more about like actually grounding and getting my legs underneath of me. And then something fucking better than like the place that Amber Heard just left can be in my sights. And maybe it can even be something I build that I have built later on myself. So I think that's what this message is. It feels like I have to write the clown film while I'm there. I'm also trying to solve more problems with code myself. I feel like I should make a separate podcast about this because I have so many thoughts about fucking the way programming is sold to us and like the narrative about programming and it being the idea that it's hard and it's mostly about like stupid mask energy that's like lying to us. I think that I'm like more and more convinced of that the better I get at using code to solve problems. So yeah, I think I'll make a separate podcast about that because I'm also working to improve the Seeds product myself because I've struck out I've been trying to do this for like a year, just trying to find collaborators who can help with these product improvements that I feel that we really need in order to be in a good position to scale. And like, I just keep striking out. And I was asking like the universe or whoever, like what the lesson there is too. And it was just getting this idea that I am supposed to learn to do it myself. And I think it's the same, it's like the thing that sent me to Sundance. So I could be like, oh, this thing that's supposed to be like a cool thing about the film industry is actually shitty. It's like going into coding, it's like, oh, this is actually bullshit. Like this whole thing that's supposed to be good, or like these, like I was dealing with Stripe support engineers today, and Stripe is a really good product and the founders I think are really smart, but like so many of the people I interacted with like were not good at what they were doing. And I was just like, are you serious that like this is a fucking, I mean, if it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation at that point, like it's huge, like not everybody is going to be amazing. But WhatsApp managed to scale and only have 28 engineers when they got acquired by Facebook and like make a good product and have really good engineers. So it's like, that's possible. So yeah, I'm just kind of like, oh wow, look at that. It's another man-made thing that's actually a scam that's like presented as though it's exclusive or something, and actually it's like bullshit. So I feel like that I'm just supposed to understand, like I went into the finance world and like discovered that as a stock trader, and it's just like it's nudging me into these other worlds. I'm sure if I'm like building a house, I'm gonna like be all mad about how dumb that process is too. But I'm trying to hire Amish builders. My Amish people built my parents' house in Ohio. Like the house we moved into, it's like probably there. Well, my dad died, but my mom will probably live there forever. And he did live there till he died. So it was just earlier than everybody thought he would die. But yeah, it's like their forever house. And they were Amish builders and they were awesome. So I thought it'd be cool to do that in this place in Michigan, and there are Amish builders that are around. And yeah, I just really like that idea of like humble, like hardworking, quiet builders. That energy going into the construction of the house sounded really great. So hopefully I won't feel the same sort of frustration, because the frustration is really more about ego, and it's about bad masculine energy, which is ego-y and arrogant often. And yeah, so yeah, we'll see. I guess I'll share more about that in the future if it seems like it's worth talking about. Yeah. Thanks for listening to me rant. Um, yeah, maybe I can make some progress on this script soon. I think when I was traveling and when I was in New Orleans specifically, one night I was feeling really bad, and just that sense of like, where there's nowhere for me on earth, like there's no place for me in this world type of energy. It was like really bad actually one night. It's not suicidal. It's just like there's nowhere for me to go. Like, where can I go? My energy isn't, there's no space for it here. Like this sense that I have to like contort it to like exist here or something. I bet a lot of people feel some version of that. And yeah, so one night it was especially bad, and I like felt compelled to watch like Judy Blume interviews to make me feel better. Because her energy is so soft and feminine, and she like created this whole world. Like, I love her, and like so many people have this really heart connected experience with her. And then it made me think about how like when I watched her master class, which I also really appreciated, she talked about writing every day. And then I read this on her blog. She says on her blog, where she's talking about her writing process, that when she's going through the first draft, she like wants to avoid it as much as possible. And she's like, I think she says she's like checking her watch and just like hates it and wants to get out of there. But she'll like make herself do at least an hour or two. She would do 7 days a week, she said, I think, just to get the first draft out. And that's like not an idea, I've never heard elsewhere. But it was just like, oh, okay, if that's how Judy Blume feels. And then she said, like, by the time she gets to the end of the draft, she's like so drawn into the story and the characters that like the real world kind of falls away from her. And she's just like really wants to keep pushing through, and she doesn't have to push. She just like is just so into it that it just keeps pouring out of her. But that first draft is like whatever, pulling teeth. That's the expression. Yeah. So that was really helpful to hear. And that seemed like something I could put into effect like now. Trying to do at least an hour or two a day is totally doable. Pieces of ideas related to it have been coming in spurts, but I'm sure if I give myself a little bit of more structure there, more will start to come through. So I think I'll try to do that. Yeah, so that's all for now. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. Yeah, and I will say more stuff on here sometime in the future. I think it shouldn't be too long next time because, well, maybe I'll be traveling and moving. We'll see. But yeah, I'll talk at you again sometime soon. All right. Bye.